What things are frequently labeled as scams when in reality they are legit, and most people simply don't understand them? Story 1. Tax brackets. People think that if they make more, they'll be taxed more on everything they make. So they'll actively try to make or report making less money to avoid paying more. But those taxes only apply to new money that you make above each threshold. I'll give an example because it can be a bit hard to explain. Let's say the tax bracket is 20 for above 60,000 and 30 for above 100,000 and that you make 105,000. You will only pay 30 taxes on that last 5,000. You will pay 20 taxes on the 40,000 between the 60K and 100K. You will not pay any taxes on the first 60K. People often think that all 105K will be taxed at 30. That's simply not the case. Answer: true, but in the UK, when you hit 100K, you forfeit a load of extra government benefits, such as tax-free childcare. So though your tax bracket logic is sound, there is a disproportionate benefit loss for those earning just over the threshold. I believe the break-even point is somewhere around 127K to start seeing the benefits again versus 99 and 50. So as the get round, a lot of people above the threshold salary sacrifice down to below 100K. I say this anecdotally. I don't hit that limit and have no direct experience. Nice problem to have. Story 2. Service industry in general. I recently hired a plumber that took care of a problem in like half an hour. Yes, the price was high for only half an hour work, but I paid for someone with the experience to diagnose the problem quickly, knowledge on how to abate the problem, and tools that I don't have. Same goes for good mechanics, electricians, landscapers, etc. Answer: people forget this way too much. People pay lawyers hundreds of dollars to fill out a form in a few minutes, or someone to do their taxes. You really aren't paying for their time. You are paying for their knowledge, and the same goes for skilled trades. They also had to travel from wherever they were to your place as well, so that also factors into the price too, as does the truck, license plate, car, and business insurance. Story 3. As a mechanic, fluid changes that aren't your normal oil change, i.e. transmission fluid and filter, differential, coolant, and brake fluid. It all needs to be changed on a regular basis, and for the same reason as oil. Now, admittedly, the service writers tend to do a shoot job of explaining why. Story 4. A lot of the awkward single-use kitchen gadgets you see aren't scams or waste. They actually come from the accessibility space. If there is any crossover to regular kitchens, they hop over. It drives the overall price down and is ultimately a better deal for the intended audience. And a few people find a dedicated option for that one thing they maybe really suck at. Answer: I thought magnetic baby clothes were a total gimmick until I accidentally bought a set at the secondhand store, and they quickly became my husband's favorite PGs to put the baby in. He has terrible eyesight, and nighttime diaper changes with zippers were hard. Snaps were a total no-go. But magnets, he doesn't have to turn on a light and find his glasses to change a diaper at 3 a.m. And then I started thinking about my stepmom, who is a stroke survivor and struggles with the use of her left arm. She can hardly use her hand and has limited arm control. But I bet she could get a baby into magnetic PJs one-handed. Story 5. Keeping small animals as pets, fish, turtles, parakeets, hamsters, etc. It is tragically completely normalized to think that it's just inevitable that these animals will live for a few months, then die, often in some horrible accident. In reality, all of these can be rewarding pets with the right care, but the problem is that the vast majority of new owners just impulse buy them without doing any research and grossly underestimate how much effort and money it takes to actually keep these animals happy and healthy. So much so that it isn't even practical for me to try and fit all of the common mistakes for even one of these species into a single comment. This video is a good starting off point. Answer: my daughter spent months researching how to keep a betta fish, got a tank, had the water cycle, had testing strips, took samples to the fish store. Finally, after 3 months of preparation, she got the fish. It died overnight. Sometimes even doing the research, those fuckers die. Meanwhile, I have 3 immortal goldfish inside my pond. A pond I haven't done anything to in years, and they literally are trapped in a block of frozen ice each winter. They are still there swimming around every spring. They recently lost a battle with a heron though, but they had like a 5-year run. Story 6. Some, not all, of the online sites for glasses. I've spent a fraction of what I used for a single pair of glasses and got 3 new pair. The quality was fine and the fit was good. As long as you use the tools offered and know your measurements, you can save a ton of. Answer: IIRC. There used to be lots of local and regional places cutting glasses for optometrists. As places started to consolidate, they started to centralize their cutting labs until there were just a handful, economies of scale and all that, especially for expensive optical equipment. Eventually, they decided they could save even more by moving or contracting to labs overseas. Then the internet shows up, and suddenly these overseas labs are like, why don't we just sell directly to customers, cut out the middleman, and still make more money? Hence the massive price difference. Story 7. Most government services actually work really well. A bunch of random stuff that you want or need to do. Just look up if there's a government service that helps with it. A bunch of times they are free or very cheap, and the service you get is quite good. Answer: I was so glad to see that Last Week Tonight episode about Medicare Advantage. I work in healthcare, and I've been saying the same thing for years. You give a government agency a given budget, and they'll squeeze out the maximum possible healthcare on a shoestring overhead. It's not going to perfect, but it'll do the job. Medicare is surprisingly efficient. You give a private insurer the same amount of money, and they'll spend a meager slice on actual healthcare services, a generous portion on profits, and the rest on marketing to people with dementia and tormenting healthcare professionals until they give up trying to get paid for their work. Story 8. Planet Money on NPR did an interesting episode about those Chinese pharmacy emails that are very common spam everyone gets. They actually went to the website and ordered something, and I think even had it tested once it delivered. And lo and behold, it was the actual substances they ordered. I'm probably misremembering some of the episode, but the gist of it was, those emails are not in fact a scam. Story 9. Renter's insurance. Had to involve my renter's insurance a few years ago when my upstairs neighbors flooded their apartment. Called my insurance company, and they handled everything. The only things I had to do were send in some pictures of the damage and a list of what was lost, and they just handed me a check for a few grand to replace it all. Totally worth the roughly 110 year that it costs. Story 10. Most large charities. TLDR. Once a nonprofit gets to a certain size, it looks scam even when it's doing good work. The idea of a staff making too much or a bad spend ratio ignores a lot of reality. Once any organization gets to a certain size, overhead becomes necessary. You eventually need an IT dept, an HR, lawyers on retainer, management, etc., all of which throw that ratio into the crapper. For staff, if you have a dozen volunteers that work for free or one paid worker with specialized knowledge of whatever the focus of the charity is, the paid worker will almost always be more effective over the long run. Answer: the constant complaints I see in my city's subreddit in local news about how evil a local nonprofit hospital is just because they don't understand how hospitals operate or how the American healthcare system works drive me insane. I'm not saying American healthcare is a good system. I'm just saying the issue aren't due to the evil machinations of the local nonprofit and that no other hospital would ever do the same things. Story 11. 9-10 times your mechanic isn't scamming you. Sometimes you have to take apart darn near half the car just to get to one bolt so you can change the oil, and prices reflect the additional time and labor. Otherwise, you're taking apart and rebuilding cars for free. Answer: Otto, the book time they charge for a repair might be way off. Take, for instance, the control arm for a Toyota Sienna. The book says 8 hours because the engine has to be removed. I did both of my Sienna's control arms in 3 hours on my driveway with hand tools because you don't have to pull the engine to do the job, and the shop that's about to charge you like $1,800 won't be pulling it either. Story 12. Yes, your dog groomer does have to shave your matted dog. No, it does not mean we are lazy. If I tried to brush out 2 months' worth of matting in one session, it would take hours and possibly days, depending on severity, of straight brushing. It would be excruciatingly painful, and your dog's skin would be so raw, they'd start to bleed from brush burn. We aren't lazy, we just want to torture your dog. Even if Fluffy's birthday is tomorrow and he has to look good for pictures. Answer: we also get the blame for everything. We had a dog's nail so long last week it was cutting into the paw pad. We cut the nail down, revealing the mess underneath caused by the owner's own neglect. Owner goes to Facebook. Look what they did to my precious baby. That's awful. They shouldn't be allowed to work with animals. That's abuse. They should be closed down. 10 negative reviews. F's. Story 13. I don't know if it's most people, but a lot of people complain when a raise or overtime pushes them into a higher tax bracket. They think they will take home less money because of the higher taxes in the new bracket. Also, a lot of people believe that the company collecting charitable donations at their registers gets to claim the donations on their taxes. Story 14. Most types of insurance. Yes, Whole universal life insurance in all its permutations are scams, but many types of insurance are not. A lot of people have trouble understanding that insurance is mostly to protect you from catastrophic loss. It is not intended that you should be making frequent claims on your car or homeowner's insurance, though many try and conclude it's a scam when their premiums go up or their coverage is canceled. Things like term life and long-term disability insurance are coverages which you hope you will never need, and it might seem like a waste of money if you don't. The proper perspective is that your premiums, after the insurer's profit margin, go to help people who have lost a loved one or suffered a life-changing disability. Both types of coverage can give you some serious peace of mind, which has value in and of itself. I paid long-term disability income insurance premiums for 31 years and never needed it, thank heavens. It bought a lot of peace of mind. I also paid various term life insurance premiums over my working years, several $1,000s I estimate. Several years ago, received a modest six-figure life insurance payout when my wife died of cancer, which replaced about 6 years' worth of her income. It was just enough of a cushion to let me make adjustments to my expenses and to ease into retirement. Definitely not a scam. While we're at it, though, all used car warranties are 110 scam. Answer, I keep seeing the car insurance is a scam people online. Even if you want to run without collision, even if it wasn't legally required, you'd still want to have car insurance because if you hit someone, it's your responsibility and their medical bills can be in the six figures. And then their rebuttal is like, well, if it's not a scam, why does the CEO make millions? Because people don't know the difference between millions and billions. If the CEO worked for free, your monthly premiums would go down by about 50C. Major insurance companies pay out billions in claims every year, and that's what most of your premium goes to. Story 15. I don't like Adobe and would never give them any of my money, but a lot of people complain about their cancellation fees on forums like Reddit. They charge a cancellation fee because you signed up for a longer-term contract, which grants you a cheaper monthly fee. If you cancel midterm, they have a penalty fee because you're breaking the contract. If they didn't, people could always get the longer contract for the cheaper monthly fee and then cancel whenever they were done. That would be similar to buying a mobile phone on a 2-year contract with a provider that gives you a discount in exchange for the contract. Obviously, you can't just cancel your contract after a few months and walk away with the phone at the discounted price. You will have to pay a penalty that makes up for the price of the phone. If you want to avoid that but still need to use Adobe's products, then either make sure you will need the software for the contract term you sign up for, or avoid it entirely by paying monthly annually with no contract. If you go to their plans and pricing page, it shows the pricing in very clear terms for each product. They have 3 options for Creative Cloud Pro, for example. Monthly, no contract, a yearly plan that is paid monthly giving you 50 off the first 3 months only, or just prepaying a flat rate for an entire year up front. I'm guessing people sign up for the discounted 3 months and then think they can cancel after the discount price ends without consequence. Story 16. Any socially beneficial aid. Social Security, SNAP, universal health care, even universal basic income has been proven to put more money into the economy than the funds dispersed, but that's all badged as a handout for the lazy. Meanwhile, there's this dozen or so people who own just about everything and have hoarded more wealth than could be spent in a few lifetimes. That's just sitting there providing no benefit to the public at large. Story 17. Restaurant prices in high COL areas. People look at a menu and think, I could make that 16 burger for 3 at home. You're not paying for the burger. You're paying for the staff, the rent, the utilities, the cleaning, the build-out, the maintenance, the linen service, the insurance, etc., etc. In a city like SF or NYC, if menu prices went up with the COL so that back of house actually got paid true living wages, that burger should be more like 30. And for owners, it's typically a really bad deal. Restaurant owners generally make little to no money for a job that requires virtually constantly being on call for when the toilet backs up or the fridge goes down or a line cook doesn't show up. A 2 to 3 margin would be considered a decent profit. I've known many restaurant owners who work for years and end up with nothing to show for it. Story 18. Pharmaceutical companies are not trying to keep you sick to be able to sell you more substances. The reason for that is because there are many pharmaceutical companies and even more smaller biotech companies that are in fierce competition with each other. If Company A can sell something that's 20 better than Company B's product, they aren't going to hold it back to protect Company B's profits. Answer, I'm a psychiatrist, and I hear this stereotype myth all the time about the medical system that physicians keep patients sick or intentionally withhold cures in order to have job security. In reality, people get sick all the time. New cancer diagnoses are made every day. Many people have mental health issues. The demand for healthcare is insane, and the supply of providers is dangerously low. My entire patient panel could fire me tomorrow, and I would likely have a patient panel full of new patients within a few months. There is no upside for me to keep patients sick. If I could press a button every time a new patient walked into my office that would cure them immediately and give them good health and a quality life, I would do it every time. I still wouldn't run out of patients. In fact, I would probably be more busy as word would spread that there is a magic psychiatrist who cures everyone with only one visit. Story 19. Condo fees. The condo corp and builder aren't profiting off them or scamming you. They go to actual stuff that needs to be done and that would need to be done if you had a freehold house. Some condos are badly managed, of course, so have fees higher than they should be, but that doesn't make condo fees a scam. Answer. Related to this, if you live in a building with an elevator, you'd probably be shocked to know just how much of your rent COA dues go towards keeping those things running. Beyond the regular maintenance, which is pretty pricey, any sort of breakdown can come with a massive $75K price tag. And every decade or so, they need an overhaul, which will often cost $200K per cab. Story 20. Life insurance, disability insurance, reverse mortgages, and annuities. They have a somewhat deserved bad rep because people sell them for high commissions to people who don't need them, when in reality they're extremely useful tools for the right circumstances. Story 21. Cash value life insurance exists as a way for wealthy people to help shield intergenerational wealth from taxes. Granted, it often is sold to the wrong market. Most don't need it, but working in the industry, you see how it has wild tax advantages and how wealthy clients use it as a way to mitigate tax burdens and shield wealth from the government, since the benefit, but not dividends, are generally not taxed upon passing. Story 22. The stock market. So many idiots act like the stock market is just gambling when low-cost index funds are the greatest ticket to wealth available to you. Just buy VOO instead of the meme stock of the day or that penny stock your buddy told you about. Story 23. College. It's tougher now than ever to get a job with a bachelor's, and a lot of people take out a ton of loans to get there, so the whole deal certainly looks scammy. But higher education is still an important aspect of any thriving culture, and people with college degrees, on average, still have a statistically higher standard of living later on in life than those without. Story 24. Using a licensed public adjuster to reevaluate or reappraise an insurance claim when your insurance doesn't offer enough to cover damages, especially on something like homeowners insurance for weather damage or storm damage. This is going to get buried, but I did search the thread to confirm no one else has said this yet. The field is clouded with roofers and stuff that are just there to hoover up insurance money after a storm, and some of those are kind of scammy, especially when they're not partnered with an adjuster. Using a qualified third-party adjuster is kind of like hiring your own defense attorney to negotiate for you, instead of relying on the prosecution's attorney to handle your needs and rights as a defendant. It shouldn't have to be adversarial line that, but the insurance company and the policyholders, you, have fundamentally opposite incentives. Pay out as little as possible versus pay out as much as possible. It's like hiring your own Mr. Incredible to help with penetrating the bureaucracy and navigating the tangled walls of fine print that they build around themselves. Note, I am not a public adjuster, though I have a family member who is, and I've seen the licensing exam material and procedures that go into this. Story 25. People say college is a scam and you don't need it. I didn't finish college. The vast majority of decent jobs out there require a college degree for you to be even considered. I'm not even qualified to apply to most jobs out there. Yeah, a degree doesn't guarantee a job, but not having one is even worse. Story 26. Companies collecting charitable donations at registers from customers. No, they don't get a tax deduction for this. Just good PR from helping out a charity. Go ahead and round up if you can afford it, and like the charity, big supermarket isn't getting their beak wet. Answer. I don't think people are bothered by it so much. They are bothered by a big company that can afford to Dante a large sum, but are relying on other people instead. Now, one could argue that a given company already donates their own money, but that isn't available info at the time a customer is asked. Also, it's important to be mindful of charities and what percentages of donations they actually use for what, and also what their actual ethics are. Susan G. Komen. Spelling is a prime example of one that is commonly used by companies where your money would be better used elsewhere. Story 27. I've heard lots of people moan about how mortgages put all the interest at the start of the loan, so you pay that off first. No, that's just how debt works. The amount of interest you owe per year of holding someone else's money is larger while you hold more of that money. The repayment schedule is calculated to meet the interest obligation while paying off some of the loan, all at a fixed monthly payment. Story 28. Annuities. They are a legitimate financial vehicle. What people need to understand is that when you buy one, you are betting that you will live longer than the break-even date. The insurance company is betting you die. Evoke that date. The insurance companies have actuaries, statisticians, who run those numbers all the time. Story 29. Columbia House BMG record clubs. Don't know about the general feeling towards them now, but I remember in the 90s and early 2000s there was a lot of confusion and disgust surrounding them. I, as a 14-year-old who wanted a bunch of CDs, figured out how it worked and how to get the most for my money so I didn't get scammed. My dad, in particular, was so hung up on them not being free CDs because you had to pay for shipping. Sure, dude. I just got a bus of 6 CDs for $5. And people didn't seem to understand the monthly commitment you had to the club, which basically amounted to telling them you didn't want them to send you their featured album, something you could easily do online and that they'd remind you of every month. Easy. Story 30. Credit cards. The amount of people that say, if I don't have the money, then I don't buy the thing. But it's like, you can use it, then immediately pay it off. Using them builds credit, and you can even get perks with them. I was always like, you could get free money. If your card gives you even just one cash back, you could get a free 100 from this transaction. Story 31. Black Friday sales and the like. Everyone I know thinks they just jack up the price before and then claim it's on sale. But if you've been tracking prices before, there are some great deals at Walmart and the like. People have a weird sense of superiority about it as well. Story 32. People think I'm a scam all the time. I'm a life and health insurance agent, and I help people primarily with Medicare and life insurance, usually from leads asking for info. I meet people in person. I've been doing this for 5 years, and it's crazy how people would rather pay more and for less benefits fees. They think I'm a scam. Story 33. Requests for charity donations at automated tills. People think corporations take the money on their books, or that there's some tax scam going on, when that would be completely illegal, and all it would take is a single annoyed accountant to get multiple company executives sent to prison. The benefit to the corporation is just a bit of cheap PR. They can say we raised X amount for Y charity. Story 34. The phone survey raffle on your 1,000 feet substance store receipt is there for their customer service ratings. However, they legally have to pay it as well as publicly display who won for verification. I worked at Rite Aid, convinced my regulars that because someone has to win, everyone laughs at the survey for a chance to win $50,000 and throws it away that no matter how many entries would be offered, only a minute fraction would ever actually enter. So they definitely should go for it. One of my regulars won. Story 35. Some protection plans extended warranties. The problem is people never register them or think that it's something through the store and not whatever third-party insurance company is backing them. Optimistically, you'll never need to use it, but if the thing breaks in a manner that isn't covered by the manufacturer's warranty and would be a costly repair, you'll make up for it. Never know when a clumsy child will trip over a power cord, a parrot will pluck keys off of your keyboard, disgruntled employees will put a liquid nitrogen bomb next to your laptop, or an errant trout will bitch slap your camera into a lake. Story 36. High-yield savings accounts. Not sure how common this is, but I've had to convince multiple people in my life to open one because they somehow didn't believe that they could just get free money from interest. Or they thought the amount they got taxed wouldn't be worth it. Story 37. Unclaimed money from a lawsuit. My aunt received several letters over years from a hospital class action. They sent her a check for $7,200 that she refused to cash, even though she did go to that hospital and had complications after a surgery. She is also the kind of person who shreds all mail with her address so no one finds it and knows where she lives. The paranoia older people have is crazy. Story 38. Ironically, there's a lot of "this is legit" comments in here for actual scams, but they don't recognize it because they don't understand things like context, comparisons, nuance, or ethics. Back to the topic, anything involving science. There's just too much ignorance in the world, and people who can't just say, I don't know, without having to feel like they need to then spend 5 minutes defending their statement with a sob story or conspiracy. Also, ironically, putting absolute faith in someone they don't know any more than their primary doctor, but that they like, usually because they reinforce their own skepticism, science fiction depiction of what is going on. My doctor just wants to push medications and procedures to meet their quota. So this guy on YouTube is a doctor? Story 39. Having worked in retail, I have to say, most store promotions, sales are genuinely good deals. The marketing team just shoot themselves in the foot by advertising them like this. Unrealistically amazing deal. Good deal. Customers come in for the prices advertised in the big font, which actually only apply to very few specific items, and feel ripped off when they find out that they're actually getting the thing in the fine print, when actually the thing in fine print is still really good. Story 40. My friend sent me an app that helps earn some chump change cash. He then told me a few weeks later that he doesn't use it anymore because it's totally a scam. No way they are just giving away free money. I explained to him, well, yes and no. The cash Tehi are giving you is real and is earnable. He asked how they could possibly afford it, and I explained, these businesses give the company a 30-cent discount on these items. Then when you buy it, the company gives you a 10-cent discount and keeps the 20 cents for themselves. Also, they sell your data if you care. But it's not a scam. It's just everyone benefits a little bit for the cost of your data. He told me I'm wrong, and that doesn't make sense. Story 41. Insurance. It's not a scam. It's literally the most fundamental form of social welfare. Let's all pool our money, and when the few of us suffer some kind of tragedy or loss, we can get them back on their feet. The only reason it's fudge up in practice is capitalism, period. The fewer claims I pay out, the more money I make. And that's good. So I want to make more money, so I'll pay fewer claims, fudge up everything, especially when it is literally regarding things people need to live. Their house getting rebuilt, their car being fixed so they can get to work, etc. Side note, universal healthcare single payer is still technically insurance. You pool a big pile of funds together, everyone pays a little bit in, some will reap the benefits, some will not need it, over any short term, at least. There's still going to be expenses to pay. You still need to pay the people who run it. You still need computers and office space, etc. to make it work. You just take the profit out of it, which is the singular force that has turned our for-profit greedy hellscape of private health insurance into the monster it is. And I would be remiss to add, get rid of the fudge lawyers. My God, people complain about what insurance companies make. Do you have any idea what lawyers' grimy hands cost the overall insurance market? But we need insurance, the mechanism. Even if a better world of reasonable wealth distribution, which we're far from, almost no one is going to have the money to rebuild their house or just buy a new car when they get in a wreck or pay for a heart operation. We need insurance. Story 42. Door close buttons. At least in the States, the elevator gets sets with a minimum time to stay open before it starts to close. That is the time the door will naturally close. Hitting the door close button does not override that, and people claim they are fake buttons to make you feel good. That is ridiculous and easily disproven. If you hold an elevator door open longer than the minimum time, either by blocking it or hitting the open door button, and then hit the door close button, the doors will close immediately because, of course, they are real buttons. People just don't understand how they work. Story 43. Tax brackets are a perfect example of how complexity breeds suspicion. I've watched people turn down promotions to avoid jumping brackets, costing themselves real money because they don't understand marginal rates. The problem isn't intelligence, it's that the system isn't taught clearly. Financial literacy should be mandatory, but instead we treat it like esoteric knowledge. Everyone knows how to find the area of a triangle, but most can't calculate their actual take-home from a raise. That's a systemic education failure, not individual stupidity. Story 44. Certain commission-based jobs. People will literally work beside someone making $500,000 a year and suck at it, make virtually nothing, and call it a scam. It does suck that you can make nothing for your time and still be working hard, but don't call it a scam because you don't have that skill set. Story 45. A lot of small companies on foreign websites are quite legitimate. It's just small team working hard to try to get exposure. They are criticized as being knockoffs, fly-by-night stores, scammers, spammers, all sorts of things, but they are just small companies trying to find their place, just as Google and Dell and BlackBerry once were. If they sell enough products and have consistently high reviews, and you find their products at a good price, they are reliable and great companies, and the people running them work hard. They often innovate and develop as well, but often that comes in the form of lowering the price rather than adding features. Story 46. Conditioner, not just conditioner, but the right conditioner, make a huge difference. I grew up using only shampoo, but I have always had thinner hair. So in the right light, you could see my scalp. Started using a good thickening conditioner, and it makes a world of difference. It doesn't fix losing hair, but for people in my situation, it's a huge improvement. My girlfriend has curly hair, and her hair looks much better using only moisturizing conditioner and shampooing once a month. Long story short, conditioner is an amazing product as long as you're using the right one. My hair looks dirty and unwashed with moisturizer, ingredients, conditioner. Story 47. Dislike to say it, but debt collection. I always hear people talking about collectors as if they're scamming or you can just do XYZ and they have to leave you alone. When in reality, it's a super regulated industry doing legit business. All the advice to get them to leave you alone, sure, they'll stop contacting you, but meanwhile, you rack up interest or fees and it hits your credit. They just won't tell you about it. BC, you told them to stop contacting you. Story 48. Credit cards with high rewards. Lots of people know these are legit, but lots of others don't know how credit cards interest work, and they think you're paying 24 interest to get 3 back in rewards. And if you are using your credit card like that, it is a scam, and you're a dope. Always pay your credit card off in full every single month. Never pay a dime in late fees or interest. Now use your credit card for everything you buy, and you're getting free money back. My cousin had a job where he traveled a lot, and he was paying for his own airfare, hotel, and rental cars, then getting reimbursed. I found him a card that had very high rewards on those purchases, and he made a few $1,000s of bonus income in just 1 year from that. Then he changed jobs, but while it was going on, it was great. Story 49. Auto home insurance. Yes, it sucks that it's expensive. No, it's not a scam. If you insured 100 people and 10 of them have a loss that totals up to 100,000, then all 100 people had to pay 1,000 just to break even. Then next year, all the mechanics get a raise, and those same losses now totally 110,000. Then ambulance costs go up, then the cost of an x-ray goes up, etc., etc., etc. And suddenly those same losses are now 200,000, and everyone's rates have doubled through no fault of the insurance company. You never hear, my insurance is too expensive. We should stop the tariffs that are driving lumber costs up, or calls to lower mechanic costs. It's always just the insurance company's fault. For many people, you never see what you're paying for, but for some people, you pay a couple $100 and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Story 50. Comprehensive car insurance, especially one with self-inflicted but not intentional damage coverage. Got to use it when I scratched my car doors deeply, trying to get to a really tight 90-degree tunnel housing project from a side street. Paid about $50 for about $500 worth of repair and repainting. Story 51. Surge pricing and airline fares. Prices move with demand and inventory. It feels bad because the anchor price in your head lags reality. If you want to win, set price alerts, be flexible on time and route, and don't trust the incognito mode lowers prices myth. Story 52. Any financial product. Plenty of them are indeed high-fee products designed to generate revenue with a small chance of outperformance. But people will learn this and then lump everything into it, including passive index products. As an FA, it is probably one of most discussed topics at seminars, and it's increased in the last few years. This is ironically good for my business. The age of grift is really helping all the insurance salespeople out there, convincing people to sell low-fee products from their 401ks to open up a terrible whole life policy. Story 53. Financial advisors. People lose their shoot when they hear they might be charged a fee. Good luck managing your investments yourself while maintaining your full-time job. BTW, those free trading platforms aren't actually free. You're buying stocks for a worse price. Story 54. Car leases. You don't own the car until it's paid off, so the idea you own it is nonsense. There is a good reason people were against them. In the 90s, some shoot dealerships did like 72-month leases. So it's not without merit. People called them scams back in the day, but those aren't a thing and haven't been for over 20 years. As a guy who grew up in the car business, pretty much everything around that. People don't know KBB is months old. That 90-ish% of revenue is done through the service side. So many things. Dealerships have a ton of things like that. After shifting to jewelry sales, I learned that also has a bunch of BS too. Like, we don't sell blood diamonds. As someone who knows a lot about this, no one can sell blood diamonds. Saying you don't would be the equivalent of we pay our state taxes, as if that's a huge accomplishment. The Kimberley process under George W. made blood diamonds not exist in every major market. That stupid Leonardo DiCaprio movie really made people experts on how things were in the 70s. Honestly, I'm sure every industry has a lot of this shoot, and the worst part is even now, people still won't believe either example. I'm not pro leases, but it's not a scam. What is a scam is acting like you're unique in not selling blood diamonds. No one can. Story 55. So, I studied economics in college, and I follow a school of thought known as Austrian school economics. There is unfortunately a whole branch of Austrian school economists who honestly and earnestly believe banks, just about all banks that follow the common banking model with which everyone is familiar, are a massive fraud perpetrated upon all of us. Story 56. This might be controversial, but wedding pricing for many sectors of the industry. People think we hike our prices because we can, and we are getting rich for minimum effort. They think we are scamming people. While there are bad actors out there, make sure you read thoroughly before you sign a contract. It could not be less true for the vast majority of creative wedding professionals. Most people have just never planned a party for 100 or more people and don't realize how much things cost at scale. We are almost all small business owners who often make less than minimum wage given the number of hours we work, the entitlement and demands we face from couples and their families, and the timelines we are up against to deliver perfection. When it seems like the cost goes up just because it's a wedding, there's almost always a legit reason. Wedding events require way more labor than regular services. The pressure of perfection for vendors means we have to plan for every contingency, and that costs money for backups, extra materials, and staff. People also almost always want things tailored and customized and don't realize how much extra labor that is, and yet still want things delivered at the same time. Weddings increase liability too. There's a much higher chance you'll be dealing with intoxicated people who might burn your wedding barn down. It all costs money. I make wedding invitations for a living, and while I love my job, even working in the luxury segment of the wedding industry where clients are spending around to $50K on wedding paper, the actual profit I make from the custom work is way less than I would if I were to go to be a teacher. I have to subsidize my income with digital sales, font design, and other services outside of weddings. Most of the income is eaten up by paying my staff a living wage, luxury printing method costs like brass plates, press materials and paper, taxes, and the tools I need to create it all. The amount of time it takes to create and the pressure to deliver on time, all while the clientele is pushing every boundary you've set, is bananas. It's a rough job that looks pretty on the outside, but is crazy stressful and not particularly lucrative on the inside. You get one shot to do it right. We aren't trying to scam you. Folks just don't realize how much money it costs me to hand foil your 200 menus or prepare dinner for all your cousins and your dad's secretary's best friend. That being said, while I work in the luxury wedding industry, I was a DIY bride when I got married. It gave me an appreciation for how much labor it takes to make it pretty. I love that I get to be creative for a living and that weddings provide an avenue for that. But weddings should always be about your commitment and love for your partner first and making it aesthetically pleasing second or third. It's never worth it to go into debt for your wedding. If you can afford it, great. If you can't, I promise you, spend your money on the things that are most important to you and don't sweat the rest. Story 57. Roofing companies offering free inspections after hailstorms to see if homeowners insurance will pay for a new roof. Just got a $35K large roof with solar panels, roof replacement for $1.5K deductible. Just make sure it's a well roofer. I assumed it would be some kind of scam at first. Answer: there's a lot of sketchy roofing companies out there who use the free inspection to manufacture a problem. My coworker inspected his own roof after a hailstorm and found nothing, but he let a roofer take a look just in case and they ripped off a shingle. Thankfully, he had taken his own photos and sent them to the insurance company to sue the roofer for fraud. Story 58. Okay, this one is going to sound bad, but here it goes. Payday loans. The idea is that it's a small loan you can get instantly, even with bad or no credit, that you're supposed to pay back as soon as you get your paycheck. That's the kicker most people miss. If done right, it's basically an emergency fund to cover a small gap of up to 2 weeks, and you're paying maybe 20 at the most to get that covered for you. They've got jacked up interest rates, yes, but that's only because you didn't pay it back on your very next payday, which is what you're supposed to do, Tidmo. It's in the name, people. You're not supposed to let it get to the point where the interest payments kick in. Story 59. Payroll specialist here. Getting a gift card as a prize at work and then seeing it taxed on your next payroll. The number of people who have no idea how this works is insane. And I used to work with accountants. For the uninitiated, here's what happens. Someone hands you an Amazon gift card for $50. You now have that $50 card in your possession and can use it as you like. Unfortunately, since it was given to you by your employer, it's considered taxable income, and they have to tax it. I know it sucks, but that's the law for you. And here's how it's taxed. Your employer adds the amount of the gift card, in this case $50, to your paycheck as an earning, probably with an earnings code of gift. This $50 is taxed at the appropriate rate based on your withholdings, and then that $50 is deducted with the same gift code on the deductions side of your paycheck. This is called an in-out. We add the value of the gift as an earning, it gets taxed, and then we remove it as a deduction. You already have the gift, and if we don't deduct it right away, then you get another one. You did not get a $50 gift card, and then your employer took $50 from your check. What happened is that you completely ignored the earnings code and only saw the deductions. So you assume your employer scammed you out of $50. Seriously, I cannot tell you how often this shoot comes up because it works this way for just about any money your employer gives you outside of your actual pay. Does your employer give you prizes if you download a health monitoring app and you had 20,000 steps that month? The monetary value of that prize is taxed the exact same way. Won a raffle and got a gift bag with a bunch of swag branded with the corporate logo? Sometimes that will be taxed the same way, but not always. Depends on the company. Also, while I'm at it, in January, don't bother calling your payroll department to ask why they didn't take enough taxes. 99 of us don't touch your taxes. And it's all based on your W-4 and whatever fuckery the IRS is up to. Story 60. The services provided by real estate agents. 1, we do so much work behind the scenes that clients never see, and we don't get paid a dime unless we get the transaction across the finish line, which sometimes can be an absolutely Herculean task. 2, we pay all the expenses for photographing, videographing, and marketing your home out of our own pocket, and we're expected to buy our clients closing gifts as well. 3, we serve as unpaid therapists and social workers for clients who may not even end up buying anything and actually cost us money. I could go on, but you get the idea. Story 61. Insurance, medical, dental, renters, or home insurance, even pet insurance. Yes, you might be paying quite a bit just in case something bad happens. But when it does and your out-of-pocket costs might bankrupt you, insurance will save your jerk. I've saved literally tens of thousands this year alone on damage to my car from a hit and run, and unforeseen surgery and medical care for my dog. Yes, a lot of insurance practices can be shady, but insurers need to earn enough revenue to cover claims costs, and it's up to customers to vet insurers and find the right best ones. I'd actually point to shady and fraudulent practices in the medical industry. For example, billing for unnecessary procedures or procedures that weren't performed, driving up insurance costs and in turn, medical costs. Better monitoring and regulation and customer engagement and advocacy would help. Story 62. Extended car warranties. Most of them actually do pay out on claims, as long as the customer has taken the time to understand their contract. They're not going to pay the whole bill, ever, but they will pick up a big chunk of it, often 80. I'd rather pay $1,000 for a repair than $6,000. Story 63. WWE-type wrestling is misunderstood. No, it isn't sports wrestling. It is a craft. TBH, I would compare it more to the circus, strength plus acrobatics plus theater plus soap opera. It's often multi-generational, with wrestlers spending a lifetime honing their performance skills. They take classes, devote countless hours in the gym, spend years in lower-tier circuits. They need to perfect their in-ring persona and be able to maintain both a public and private life. Sometimes they ditch a persona and start fresh. I would compare championship titles to Tony Awards or Oscars. To win means you have been deemed the best at your craft. And oh yeah, they get hurt for real, and some have died, all for your entertainment. Story 64. Extended service warranty contracts on your car. So many people are quick to say something negative about them because they either never utilize them or have had a claim denied. If you review your contract, understand what's not covered, and keep up with regular maintenance, you could potentially be saving yourself thousands of dollars. Answer, okay. I have my records and my Jeep has been in the Jeep dealership shop for 116 days and counting for overheating. My contract is premium, the best sold. The problem, you ask? The dealer has to get pre-approval for work performed. They ask for one thing but are told no. Do the smaller thing first. Takes weeks to get new approval when the small thing doesn't work. It's Medicare Advantage for cars. Oh, and I had to sign off on paying $2,000 for the teardown so they could decide if they would cover anything. I'm suing everyone. Story 65. When people say wealthy people and businesses only give money to charity because it gets them so much tax back, they get back the tax they paid on the charitable donation. That's it. They are still donating to charity. They are still spending more than they would if they didn't donate. They are still paying taxes on everything else. Well, unless they aren't, but that's unrelated. Story 66. The Beyond Meat BYND stock short last week that turned out to not even be a stock shorting event, but a wildly popular pump and dump that us as investors did to ourselves. It was wild and not easy to understand without digging into raw data and research. I read an article on the news today trying to explain it, and they still got it wrong. Story 67. Some referral programs were legit. 20 years ago, they had a bunch of them, similar to freeipods.com, where you sign up to a free trial, they give you a list and you pick one, then get 5-10 people to sign up using your referral code who do the same, sign up to a free trial, and then they send you an iPod or cash. You don't pay for shipping either. I've gotten iPods, laptop, flat screen monitor, a bunch of random electronics and cash. They had forums where people used to trade referrals, you do me and I do you, for various sites. They basically received referral money from those companies. That's how they made money. Story 68. Car leases. Just like buying a car outright, leasing a car can be a bad deal if it's a bad deal, and it can be a good deal if it's a good deal. Understanding what a lease actually is and knowing how to determine what you're actually paying lets you figure out the difference. Story 69. Charity donations at stores. The stores do it for the goodwill it generates, and they do not make any money from it at all, other than potentially more people shopping there. The stores cannot use the donations to offset their own tax liabilities unless they donate their own money. Story 70. Professional trading honors stocks. To be clear, I know that there are scammers in the industry who only make money by selling courses and are unprofitable themselves. But there are some people who believe that trading in and of itself is a scam. It is certainly incredibly difficult, but it is not impossible. Story 71. People who go door to door. Been in the industry for 10 years, and I constantly hear people say, if it were a real business, it wouldn't need to go door to door. But in reality, most companies advertise in all ways, including door to door. And most of the time, they do actually offer the best discounts because we know we are asking people to commit to something in the spot usually, which is why they get the discount versus if they just called my office. Same work, same company. Story 72. This is likely to be controversial for some, but timeshares. Yes, there are many people who say they got scammed into buying one, but in the U.S. there are tons of regulations around the purchase of timeshare properties. They must disclose payments, maintenance fees, exchange fees, and other related costs. Even if the sleazy salesperson fails to mention these, they are clearly listed on the documents you sign. As for the value of timeshares, many people who buy them don't fully understand how to utilize them. Perhaps you plan to go to the same condo every year, but that's not utilizing the true value. The timeshare system allows you to pay a small fee and exchange your deeded timeshare week for any one of thousands of properties around the world. You still have to pay for travel costs, but that benefit is what many people don't take advantage of. Story 73. Ivy's seen this a lot on TikTok, mainly by grifters, but I'd figure I'd mention it. 401ks and other such employer-sponsored retirement plans are not a scam, and whole life insurance is not a viable replacement for the average person. 401ks allow you to put money away for retirement with the benefit of essentially free money in the form of the employer match. Sure, you are not allowed to touch it without penalty until 59.5, and you have to pay taxes on withdrawals. But the trade-off is that it allows you to reduce your taxable income during your working years. Plus, you are hopefully in a lower tax bracket in retirement than your working years. Plus, that money gets decades of compounding growth over the course of your career. I've seen too many stupid jerk TikToks reels from financial professional saying that 401ks are scams and to get whole life insurance instead. Guess what? They are trying to sell more life insurance because the commissions are high for those products. The truth is that they are good tools for high-income people that are already able to comfortably max out their tax-advantaged accounts with enough left over to pay for these higher premium products. If you borrow money from the cash balance of the policy, you still need to pay it back plus interest. They typically have a feature that allows market-related growth with a zero floor, meaning if the market grows, so does the balance. And if the market is in decline, there is no loss. Sounds great until you realize that growth is capped. So if the market has a spectacular year, you likely will only see a portion of that growth in money that you have to pay interest on to even access. I mentioned above that these products have higher premiums as well. If you don't pay your premium for a month, then the whole thing goes away. If I don't contribute to my Roth IRA 401k brokerage account, the money is still there, working for me, and I can pick up when I have the money to contribute again. Unless it actually makes sense for your situation, do not bother with whole life insurance policies and opt instead for term policies. Story 74. Fluid exchanges on vehicles. You don't necessarily have to do them early, but it's good to do them at the interval it says in your service manual and based on if you drive your car really hard or not. This will extend the life of many of your car's components. But a lot of people do get worried that they're getting overcharged at a shop for a service that they don't need. They are in fact necessary. For example, changing the fluid in your 4x4 truck's transfer case or the coolant on your little Honda. Plus, if you can learn to do them at home, you'll save a lot of money. Story 75. Pet insurance. People get incredibly upset when pre-existing conditions are not covered for their dog or cat because they don't read their policies. Sign up for most companies even explicitly states any condition the animal has currently won't be covered, and they still act shocked and say it's a scam. Story 76. Too many people are one paycheck away from homelessness. Therefore, homeless RV encampments, cash under the table. Government doesn't have a working solution, so entrepreneurs are stepping in and reaping the rewards. It's what the market will bear. Economics 101. Story 77. Moderately priced clothing, especially now. Honestly, clothing prices in general, people just don't understand how much effort and labor and materials go into a pair of jeans or any other simple garment. The fact that a pair of jeans costs a consumer less than $100 means someone is suffering and the quality is shoot. Whenever someone complains about the cost of clothing, I ask them what they think it should cost and break down the components of where that money goes. Story 78. Making a charitable donation at the checkout of a grocery store. No, the company is not keeping the money. That would be illegal. No, the company is not using your donation for their own tax write-off. That's not how taxes work. The benefit to the corporation is the good PR they get by advertising how much money their campaign raised for charity. There is no scam. Important caveat is that some charities are less noble than others. And if the charity being advertised has many company insiders sitting on its board or other incestuous management, it's probably not worth giving to. But for your local food bank, humane society, or a large organization with a good reputation like Doctors Without Borders, donating at the checkout lane is a convenient way to do some good when you otherwise wouldn't think to. Story 79. If seller is lying about value or their product, it is a scam or at least dishonest advertising. Some insurance types make it very hard to get the claims paid. Crypto is basically a new type of Forex. A currency has no reason to go up forever, so advertising it as a guaranteed income is a scam. Story 80. Insurance. People meanie when it doesn't totally cover the cost of what they need, then meanie when the rates go up so that it will be able to cover the cost of what they need. Plus, people use it for things they shouldn't. Then they're surprised when their rates go up or their carrier drops them. Story 81. NFTs. I'll preface this by saying yes, 99 of the ones people are trying to sell you are scams. The JPEGs of monkeys and whatnot are just a proof of concept and have zero intrinsic value. However, the actual technology behind NFTs could potentially be very useful. It's just that for most use cases, they haven't been implemented properly yet. Think of a banknote. It's essentially just a piece of paper with a picture of some guy on it. It has no real intrinsic value, but we assign value to it anyway. But with a banknote, you don't know its history, and it can be destroyed or counterfeited. Now, with money, we don't really care much about the individual unit. One 100 bill is much like another. For this use case, cryptocurrency is a better fit than NFTs. But for certain items, we do care about uniqueness. Think of contracts, proofs of ownership, certificates, etc. NFTs could be used here, where we can easily verify legitimacy, view transfer history, and transfer easily, whilst being nearly impossible to counterfeit or destroy. TLDR NFTs attached to a picture of a monkey or something are a scam, but the actual concept of NFTs themselves isn't. They just haven't been implemented properly yet. Story 82. AI tools. The amount of people that talk about how shoot they are and that they don't work or just make shoot up is insane. It does definitely do that, but if you know how to use it, then it is incredibly useful. It's like saying Google is a scam. I asked it a question and the first result that appeared was wrong. Story 83. Matched betting has to be the top one. In a world of LLM and even Google, people can't spend 3 minutes to do some due diligence. The same 3 minutes that could change their life. I'm now in my 12th year, starting in the UK with Outplayed, and now in the US using their US sister site Profit Duel. 60 round and counting for 2025, my best year yet. Story 84. What things are frequently labeled as scams when in reality they are legit? The thing that is frequently labeled as a scam when in reality it's legit most decentralized monetary network in the world is called Bitcoin. And most people simply don't understand them. It's so bad a simple mention of it on Reddit will get you downvoted by these people. They might need another 16 years to understand what it is, and that's okay too. Story 85. The stock market, TV, and uneducated people will have you thinking, oh no, I don't want to lose everything. But if you just invest over time in broad index funds, you are likely to make a significant amount of money over time, albeit slowly. As long as you keep investing, you'll make more money over the long term by continuing to buy when things are bad and the market is low. Traders that buy and sell shoot penny stock companies and freak out during market swings lose money. Investors that put money in the market consistently over time generally do not. Buy and hold real companies in index funds. It's really that simple. Story 86. Cryptocurrencies. Yes, sure, there are many scammers using crypto to not get caught. The market is volatile, etc. But actually, most of the major cryptocurrencies are really powerful tools of asset exchange. The reason scammers use them exactly shows the power of these tools. Transfer or hold assets anywhere in the world with no one being able to take it away from you, cancel your transactions, nor shut down the network.